Life is so difficult and challenging that unless you give it everything you have, the chances are very high that it will embitter you, and then you'll be a force for darkness rather than good. The fact that life is short and can be brutal can terrify you into hiding and avoiding challenges. But you can also flip that on its head and understand that since you're all in anyway, you might as well take adventurous risks. That's a very good thing to understand. What is also useful to understand is that there isn't anything more adventurous than the truth. This is something that took me a long time to figure out. While you can craft your words to get what you want, and people do that all the time, they do so to avoid taking responsibility for things they should. They craft words to gain an advantage that they don't really deserve. That's what happens when you manipulate. The problem with manipulation is that you're not necessarily the best judge of what you need, and it's easy to be deluded about what you want. These delusions are what people chase when they pursue power. If you decide instead to simply say what you believe to be true, you have to let go of the consequences. You might think, I don't want to let go of the consequences because I want to control what's going on. But what you miss then is adventure. If you don't control what's going on, you don't know what will happen, and maybe that's exciting, there's no doubt about it. Additionally, if you're attempting to say what you believe to be true and act in the manner you think is most appropriate, that's genuinely you, and you have the force of reality behind you. That seems like a good deal. You have reality and adventure. So why is that a moral obligation? If you hide and don't let what's inside you out, and you don't bring into the world what you could, you become cynical and bitter. You will not only fail to add to the world what you could, but you'll also start being jealous of people who are competent and doing well, working to destroy them. That's the pathway to hell. How do you know who you are? You are complex beyond your own understanding. More complex than anything else that exists. Accepting other people as complex beyond belief, your ignorance is further complicated by the intermingling of who you are with who you could be. You are not only something that is, but also something that is becoming, and the potential extent of that becoming transcends your understanding. Everyone has a sense that there is more to them than they have yet realized. That potential is often obscured by poor health, misfortune, and the general tragedies and mishaps of life, but it can also be hidden by an unwillingness to take full advantage of opportunities, regrettable errors of all sorts, including failures of discipline, faith, imagination, and commitment. Who are you, more importantly? Who could you be if you were everything you could conceivably be? Are such questions impossible to answer? Or are there sources available to us from which guidance might be derived? After all, we have been observing ourselves in our successes and failures for perhaps hundreds of thousands of years. During that time, our shamans, prophets, mystics, artists, poets, and bards have distilled something vital from such observation, some concentrated essence of what makes us human in actuality and possibility. They have provided us with representations of that vital essence, presenting itself to us as something that can neither be ignored nor forgotten. These creative individuals write and act out dramas and tell stories that capture our imagination, filling our dreams with visions of what might be. The deepest and most profound of these are remembered, discussed, and honed collectively, forming the very basis of our culture. These are the stories upon which the ritual, religious, and philosophical edifices characterizing sophisticated, populous, successful societies are built. The stories we cannot ignore or forget speak to something we know, but do not fully understand. The ancient Greek philosopher Socrates believed that all learning was a form of remembering. Socrates posited that the soul, immortal in its essence, knew everything before it was born. However, at the point of birth, all previous knowledge was forgotten and had to be recalled through the experiences of life. There is much to be said for this hypothesis. Strange as it might seem, there is much that we could do, much that our bodies and minds are capable of doing, that remains dormant right down to the genetic level. Exposure to new experiences activates this dormant potential, releasing abilities built into us over the vast span of our evolutionary history. This is perhaps the most basic manner in which our bodies retain past wisdom and draw upon it when necessary. It is in this way, although not only in this way, that human possibility exists. Thus, there is something profound in the concept of learning as remembering. Obviously, learning involves turning on innate but hidden possibilities. We can learn much that is new. This is one of the primary factors differentiating us from animals. Even complex and intelligent mammals such as chimpanzees and dolphins tend to repeat their species' typical behaviors generation after generation with very little change. Humans, by contrast, continually seek out and encounter what is new, investigate and adapt to it, and make it part of themselves. We can also translate something we already know at one level of representation into knowledge. Another, we can observe the actions of a living creature, animal, or human, and then imitate them, translating our perceptions of their movement into new movements of our own. We can generalize such imitative acts, catching the spirit of what or whom we are observing and producing new ways of seeing and acting that are similar to that spirit. This forms the basis of the deeply embodied implicit knowledge that contributes to our true understanding. We can observe someone act or something occur, write down what we see, translating action into language that outlasts its utterance, and then communicate it later in the absence of what or whom is being described. Finally, and most mysteriously, we can imagine and then act out something that has simply not been seen before, something truly original. We can code and represent all that ability, adaptive action, and its transformation in the stories we tell about those we admire, as well as those we hate. That is how we determine who we are and who we could perhaps become. Stories become unforgettable when they communicate sophisticated modes of being, complex problems, and equally complex solutions that we perceive consciously in pieces but cannot fully articulate. Aim at something. Pick the best target you can currently conceptualize. Stumble toward it. Notice your errors and misconceptions along the way. Face them and correct them. Get your story straight, past, present, future. They all matter. You need to map your path. You need to know where you were, so you do not repeat the mistakes of the past. You need to know where you are, or you will not be able to draw a line from your starting point to your destination. You need to know where you are going, or you will drown in uncertainty, unpredictability, and chaos and starve for hope and inspiration. For better or worse, you are on a journey. You are having an adventure, and your map better be accurate. Voluntarily confront what stands in your way, the way that is the path of life, the meaningful path of life, the straight and narrow path that constitutes the very border between order and chaos. And traversing it brings them into balance. Aim at something profound, noble, and lofty. If you can find a better path along the way, once you have started moving forward, then switch course. Be careful, though. It is not easy to discriminate between changing paths and simply giving up. One hint, if the new path you see forward after learning what you needed to learn along your current way appears more challenging, then you can be reasonably sure that you are not deluding or betraying yourself when you change your mind. You will zigzag forward. It is not the most efficient way to travel, but there is no real alternative, given that your goals will inevitably change while you pursue them. As you learn what you need to learn and discipline yourself, you will find yourself turning across time incrementally and gracefully to aim ever more accurately at that tiny pinpoint, the X that marks the spot, the bullseye and the center of the cross. Aim at the highest value of which you can conceive. You will pursue a target that is both moving and receding. Moving because you do not have the wisdom to aim in the proper direction when you first take aim, and receding because no matter how close you come to perfecting what you are currently practicing, new vistas of possible perfection will open up in front of you. Discipline and transformation will nonetheless lead you inexorably forward. With will and luck, you will find a story that is meaningful and productive, improves itself with time, and perhaps even provides you with moments of satisfaction and joy. With will and luck, You will be the hero of that story, the disciplined sojourner, the creative transformer, and the benefactor of your family and broader society. Imagine who you could be, and then aim single-mindedly at that. I'm not suggesting that you don't work hard in terms of an idea, but am trying to tell you, if you grind, you will be broke the rest of your life, or you will barely make it. This society did not become rich by workers. It became rich by the people who knew how to put the workers to work. I heard a poem once that said, "Many a flower has bloomed unceasingly and wasted sweetness upon the cold desert air." It's translated to mean simply that many talented persons have gone unnoticed, and the world never had a chance to be exposed to their talent, because that person did not take the time to begin to express or to demonstrate or to motivate themselves in the direction to bring that which they came into the universe to bring. If you can identify your God-given gift, that's your greatest chance for success, because God gave you a gift. At birth, He gave it to you. You don't have to look for it. It's inside you. It's the thing that you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort. When you are living in your gifts, when you get up in the morning to go to work, you're overjoyed. This is how you know you're not living in your gift. If you are waking up in the morning and you can't stand waking up because you don't want to go to your job, it's because you are not living in your God-given gift. God created you to have a life of abundance, to wake up in a joyous spirit. If you're not, it's because you have not tuned into what God created you for. The separation of talent and skill is one of the greatest misunderstood concepts for people who are trying to excel, who have dreams, who want to do things. Talent you have naturally. Skill is only developed by hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft. Life is not just watching the clock tick away. Life is a collection of experiences, their intensity, their frequency, whatever the span of your life turns out to be. Here's what you want to fill it up with: experiences and the intensity of those experiences. Here's one of the best ones we covered earlier. When should you start building this? The answer: as soon as you have it finished. When should you start the day? As soon as you have it finished. Plan the day the best you can, leaving plenty of room for improvising and surprises and all the stuff that happens during the course of the day. But if you've planned a good productive day, now you start that day. You can't believe how much more valuable your time will be. Don't start the day until you have it finished. Weak people are a problem in general, and I don't mean physically weak. I mean cowardly, let's say, and deceitful, because I'm thinking of it more in terms of moral weakness. There are a variety of reasons. First of all, if you can't support your own weight, then someone else has to do it. And that's not good. If you don't make your pathway, if you don't pick a forthright, useful, and noble pathway through life, then you'll become bitter and too hurt by the tragedy of existence. You tend to seek your revenge wherever you can get it, and that's not good. So, it's a mistake on all fronts. It's not good for you, it's not good for your family, it's not good for the community, and it's certainly not a good medium to long-term strategy, because life is very, very difficult. You have to be prepared for that. I had a watcher the other night at my lecture in Oslo. He wrote me a letter. He was a 17-year-old boy. He said that my work had been very helpful to him. His father had died suddenly about 6 months before, and he found his dad when he was dying, and was very, very shocked and horrified and hurt by what had happened. I had recommended in my YouTube lectures that one thing you could aim for was to be the strongest person at your father's funeral. So that's what he did. 1. He helped his mom, wrote a 200-word eulogy, and got through it. So good for him. That's strength and necessary. It's a terrible thing that happened, but he did everything he could not to make it any worse than it had to be. But do you never see that? Showing weakness can be a strength too, not weakness, vulnerability. That's a whole different thing. To admit to the fact that you're vulnerable is a form of courage, not a form of weakness. But that leads you to take whatever steps are necessary to deal with that properly. It isn't some facade that you're invulnerable. No one is invulnerable by any stretch of the imagination, and to stand up and face that is the best route. When I made this transition into the business world, what I discovered was, as you were talking a moment ago, you feel the tug on your heart, the kind of, wow, I started here, and now I'm over here. Here's what I believe: as you follow your dream, it begins to get bigger. When it gets bigger, there are more things that you're learning about it that you didn't know when you started. In the beginning of the dream, it's just very little, and you can kind of see it. So you go that way, but then it begins to expand. Yes, and for me, it's a calling. And let me just say this. I'm not trying to be over spiritual, but somebody asked me today what a calling was. And I like my new definition for a call. In fact, in my book Leadership, one of my chapters is shifting from career to calling, how you know and how you make that shift. I think a calling is a purpose with a divine touch. So many times we miss happiness because we think it's out there. So we pursue happiness, and what we need to discover is the fact that happiness is not a place that you go or a status that you attain. Happiness is an inside job. When I am content, happy, satisfied, pleased within myself, then everybody and everything will bring happiness around me. Just as if I'm displeased on the inside, there's nothing that will bring me pleasure or happiness on the outside. Happiness is not an outside job, it's an inside job. Happiness is not something that someone brings to me or gives to me. It's something I bring to myself and give to myself. So give yourself today the gift of happiness. It's your choice. And guess what? The moment you are happy within, there's a whole bunch of happiness that you're going to experience on the outside. The only thing you have to believe in, lean close, hear my words. The only thing you have to believe in right now is that humans are capable of learning. Humans, for whatever reason, nature has chosen not to endow us with a whole bunch of pre-programmed things. For instance, a baby horse, a foal, I believe is how you say that, when they're born, can already walk. Literally, boom, they come out and they're walking. And all is well because that's all hardwired into them. But a horse is a horse is a horse, and they're going to stay a horse, and that's that. You're never going to find a horse reading Chaucer. It's just not going to happen. So all those decisions are pre-wired. Humans, on the other hand, come out and cannot take care of themselves. They are a lump of flesh. They basically know how to suckle, and that's sort of the extent of it. But now, humans have the ability to go in all these crazy different directions. They can learn to become an astrophysicist, a carpenter, a doctor, an astronaut. Like, the number of directions that humans can go in is crazy. The amount of what was once known as junk DNA, we now know, is epigenetic signaling. The way that we can respond in all these different directions to our environment, to the things we choose to focus our energies on, is truly unique to humans. It's just absolutely astonishing. So understanding that that's baked into the human animal is the ability to learn and go in any direction. Once you realize that humans are adaptation machines and that we can learn anything, it's like, okay, whatever you want to do, you can do it as long as you're willing to pay that price. I'm not saying that it's not going to be hard. It is going to be very, very hard. I'm just saying that it is doable and that you will receive a return on investment in your energies. That's what people need to know and believe to the core of their being, that my time in this direction will be rewarded. Now, here's where people mess themselves up. There is this debate about whether or not it is. Hey, am I pre-programmed? I'm good at math, so that's it, and I should go do things that are math. Or I'm good at verbal, and I should go do things that are verbal. I'm naturally gifted as an athlete, so I should go be an athlete. Look, I'm not saying people don't get early wins. People get early wins, and if you happen to love the thing you're getting early wins in, that's awesome, man. You'll find it just a little bit easier. You've got a headwind or a tailwind, I guess. A tailwind. And so that's great, But if the thing that gives you the most energy in life is something that you have no natural inclinations for, go learn. When I say that I have zero natural ability as an entrepreneur, I mean zero. I had to learn everything, from not being lazy to problem solving. To overcoming my paralyzing fear, to looking at the world like a puzzle, to dealing with anxiety. Literally, it was comical. As I was going down my journey in the beginning, as an entrepreneur to figure this out. It's ridiculous. And then I meet people who are like ripping flowers out of people's front yards and selling them back to them. When I say that that was not me, I had a paper route. And I was so chicken to go up to people's doors that I actually only got half the money that I could have gotten for the same paper route, the same amount of effort. Because I was so afraid to go knock on people's doors and ask to collect the money that was due. For like 2 years, I did a paper route for half the money. That's how much of an entrepreneur I was when I started. So you can learn this stuff. Now, my goals demanded that I learn entrepreneurship, so I learned it. So that's what I want people to understand. What is your goal? Work backwards from there. If it lines up with what you're naturally good at, that's amazing, and congratulations. But there are going to be times where it doesn't line up, and you've just got to either change your goal or recognize that you're going to have to figure these things out. Because I'm an adaptation machine as a human being, I can do all of that. It's not about suffering. Some people may view suffering as something you have to endure every day of your life, but it's more of understanding and confronting it. You need to tap into the suffering daily because we all have scars that need addressing. Look at suffering almost like failure to succeed. You must confront and learn from both. All the answers to your challenges are embedded in these experiences. You don't have to live in suffering and pain constantly. Instead, you should learn to visit it, much like working out. People dislike working out, but you only need to engage in it for an hour a day. The same applies to suffering. Visit it for an hour a day. Face your past failures for an hour a day. The answers you seek lie within these experiences. Think of it as a live autopsy, just as a coroner examines a body to understand the cause of death. You should examine your own experiences while you're still alive. Don't wait until it's too late. Go into your mind, confront your suffering, and ask yourself why certain experiences were so painful. Understand why you have these fears and why you've shut down from the world. I guarantee you that the reasons you feel stuck or sorry for yourself are hidden within the scars of your suffering. They are in the nooks of your brain, within the pain. Visit these scars for at least an hour a day. Study them and you'll learn more about yourself, which will lead to growth. Don't just say you're afraid to jump off an airplane. Study that fear. That's why I became mentally powerful. I realized my weaknesses, and instead of avoiding them, I delved into them. I examined every fear, every insecurity, and understood their origins. I came from a place that had beaten me down, which is why I was afraid. It all made sense. I systematically revisited every fear and every situation in my mind, and that's how you confront and overcome them. Your present, future, and past are all important aspects of who you are. Unfortunately, many people overlook at least one of these because they don't feel at peace with themselves. They find it hard to follow through on their goals. To stick to your plans confidently, you need to understand all parts of yourself. Face your past as it shapes who you become today. Your past influences your feelings and your brain's responses to stimuli. In your earliest years, you learned that certain actions led to specific responses, which may have been positive or negative. Negative aspects of our past can hinder our progress. Some people romanticize the past, longing for a golden age that no longer exists, which can negatively impact both their future and present. It's crucial to acknowledge your past and accept that it cannot be changed. The past is a part of you, but it doesn't have to disable you. You can harness it to fuel your drive for the future. The power of the past is limited to what you give it, so use it wisely. Recognize and accept the trauma you've experienced, even though it may be difficult. You don't have to forget it or minimize its importance, but you should learn to view it in its entirety and give it the weight it deserves. This is true for both minor and major trauma. Regardless of the extent of your trauma, it's important to learn from it. Analyze your past to see how it has affected you. Once you recognize your trauma, you can explore how it has changed you. Consider what you might have done differently without the trauma and envision how it could influence your future. Your past will impact who you are, but it is not your only influence. Avoid keeping painful reminders that only make you feel worse about yourself. Don't keep old trinkets that bring you down. Forgive, but don't forget if you think it will help. Forgive those who have hurt you to release yourself from guilt and shame. This isn't about erasing the past, but about letting go of the pain and moving forward without bitterness. Remember that what you recall may not be entirely accurate. Memory is often fuzzy. People can forget details or even misremember events. Your memories are influenced by emotions and experiences, so they may be incomplete. Accept that your memories might be flawed and recognize that the past may not hold as much power as it seems. Although you can't change the past, you can make changes to find peace. Your past, no matter how terrible, has aspects you can be grateful for. Find something positive to be thankful for. It could be a small memory that helps you cope with more painful ones. Your past is irrelevant to who you are today. No matter what happened, you aren't defined by past trauma. You are who you present to the world now. You are free to be the person you want to become, although you can't erase your past. With time, self-reflection, and possibly therapy, it is possible not to be tied down by past events. Let go of the past and begin living in the future. After I joined the Air Force, I faced setbacks and realized I was afraid of water. I wanted to become an Air Force special operator, so I worked hard to achieve that. But when I got in the water, I discovered it wasn't enjoyable for me. I went from 175 pounds to 297 pounds in 3 years and found myself at home, overwhelmed by insecurities from my high school years. I felt like a failure, making $1,000 a month spraying for cockroaches. One day, I came home from work and watched a show on the Discovery Channel or History Channel about Navy SEAL Bud, Class 224 going through training. It was all water-based, and they were enduring Hell Week, freezing and quitting left and right. I was sitting at 297 pounds with a chocolate milkshake and a box of mini chocolate donuts, watching these amazing men endure the training. I felt a strong sense of inadequacy and knew I had to overcome my fears. Every day, a haunting voice in my head told me, "You're nothing. You're nothing," and I realized I had to start conquering myself. Personal standards are the guidelines that you use to guide your life. They can serve as a framework, much like your purpose, but they are often shaped by it. Your personal standards should be aligned with your purpose. This alignment encourages you to set standards that help you live according to your purpose. Our society has many standards for how we should interact with each other and live. Often, these standards are codified into laws to ensure accountability. Even when standards aren't written into laws, people will point them out if we behave contrary to societal guidelines. For instance, if an adult engages in bullying, peers will call them out and hold them accountable. However, living up to society's standards is not enough. You need to set your own standards. By doing so, you have the power to shape your life according to your choices. Personal standards are more than just guidelines. They are a powerful motivator. Feeling like you have to do something is more likely to drive you to action than feeling like you should do it. Limiting what we think is important sabotages our progress. Therefore, we need to change how we communicate and set standards to achieve our goals. To create personal standards, focus on the values you want to live by. This will help you set standards for your behavior, relationships, activities, and living environment, ensuring consistency in your actions and decisions. Your personal standards are essentially your personal rules for living. You can establish these standards by focusing on what you need to do to work towards your purpose. For example, if you want to be a better parent, you should be willing to adapt and change to meet your children's needs. Maintain your health and learn new parenting strategies. Always look for habits or behaviors that help you reach your purpose, even if their benefits are indirect. This approach is crucial for making your life as healthy and capable as possible to fulfill your purpose. This is the best way to motivate yourself to continue, even when it seems difficult or impossible. Focus on the areas in your life where you are most engaged as you establish your personal standards. Pay attention to your behavior and how it contributes to achieving your personal objectives. You should also consider the people around you and their contributions to your success. Next, focus on how you allocate your time and how it contributes to your personal success. It is difficult and not ideal to create a rigid guideline around your personal standards, as it can make you feel constrained and lead to resentment. Instead, aim to cultivate your personal standards in a more natural way. The best approach is to integrate and maintain your personal standards as you go about your daily life. While writing down your personal standards can serve as a reminder or inspiration, nurturing and maintaining them organically will yield a higher emotional return and help you keep them in mind. For example, if you're out walking with friends in the mall and think, "I really shouldn't be spending any money right now," that can trigger you to identify your personal standard and become more disciplined with your spending. You might decide that your personal standard is that, regardless of how much you like a product, if you don't have the money, you won't buy it. This will help you maintain your standards and achieve your goals. It is crucial to adhere to the standard you have set and to follow through consistently. Hold yourself accountable by being constantly aware of your standards and how they relate to your goals. Ensure you are accountable for failing to meet your standards, which will help you stay focused on why you set them. Your brain will learn that it is easier to maintain your standards than to deviate from them and face consequences later. For instance, if you buy the top you like despite not having the budget for it, you might then need to cut back on junk food or snacks while grocery shopping. Limiting snacks and chips will provide a clear and unpleasant consequence for going against your standards, making it easier for your brain to recognize the importance of following them. If you fail to adhere to your standards, you will face the consequences. The easy route never pays well. The only route in life that pays well is the hard route. The struggle, the pain, the frustration, and the overcoming of those things. Not only do they pay, they fulfill you as well. As you go through the challenges of life, embrace whatever comes to you. Don't run from it. Step toward it. Don't try to duck it like most people do. Most people want it easy. Easy come, easy go. But when you face what you're going to deal with and handle the difficulties of it, making those hard decisions right now that you don't want to make, learning those things that you don't like to do but know you need to, this is one of the hoops you have to jump through. I'm saying to you, whatever you have to do it. Because if you don't, life is going to whoop you until you surrender. It's hard. Then do it hard. When things go wrong, they always seem to happen at once, compounding on top of each other. It's pretty easy sometimes to feel beaten when you're faced with all those issues and problems hitting you at the same time. But let me tell you, that doesn't mean give up. In fact, it means the opposite. It means it's time for you to fight harder, to dig in. It's time for you to go on the warpath. I want to reassure you that you can do it. I want to reassure you that you can make the decision. I want to reassure you that no matter what the night, the storm, or the difficulty, there isn't anybody here that can't figure it out. Find some things to do, step at a time. Yes, minute at a time. Yes, day at a time. Yes, week at a time. Yes. But there isn't anything you can't walk away from. There isn't any challenge you can't overcome. I want you to have that kind of belief in yourself. The first thing I believe you have to do to turn yourself around is really take control of your mind, or specifically, feed and strengthen the mind. The mind is an interesting place, isn't it? Fear can take us over. Uncertainty kind of unleashes all these thoughts that make us start to believe very often that things will always be bad, that we'll never be able to turn it around, or that we don't have the capability. It's just the nature of those inner voices that everybody feels at times. Now, maybe you're not feeling it right now, but I'm sure there are times that you have. So to take control of your focus, what do you do? Well, I was told all of a sudden I had a tumor way back. When and while I was on my own trying to figure out what to do, I realized that somehow I had to take control of my mind. How to feed it. If I didn't feed my mind, I'd be living on the weeds that came around me. I mean, today, if all you do is pick up your phone, you've got all kinds of messages that are going to get your full attention. Or flip on Google, check out the news, or watch CNN or whatever it is you do. It's constantly coming at us. One of my first teachers, Jim Rohn, taught me something years ago. He said, "Tony, every day you've got to stand guard at the door of your mind." That, think about this. What if your worst enemy in the whole world came and dropped some sugar in your coffee? Said, "What do you mean? I have sweet coffee." Said, "That's right, coffee," he said. "That's right. What if your best friend, with the best intention in the world, dropped one drop of strychnine in your coffee?" I said, "I'd be dead," he said. "That's right. So remember, life is both sugar and strychnine, and you better stand guard at the door of your mind because things feed in there and you start to accept them. They start to become beliefs. You start to make up meanings that take over your life. Your focus must be on becoming a true alpha male first. On yourself, your life, your career, and who you want to become. You see, life isn't just about attaining the career of your dreams, buying your dream house, your dream car, and having your dream girl. It's about the man you become along the way. You aren't just creating those physical things in your life. You are creating and becoming a new man. Life isn't just about the journey and the path you will take. It is also about how you develop yourself. The problem has never been that you are not an alpha male. The problem has always been that you have negative beliefs that have hidden your true alpha male self. Most, if not all of us, have had experiences in life that caused our subconscious mind to create beliefs about ourselves that are no help whatsoever. But your subconscious mind, with all of its super intelligence at keeping you alive and running well, is notorious for holding on to negative beliefs. Your subconscious mind is not concerned if you follow your bliss or become a self-actualized person. All your subconscious mind is concerned about is your survival. It's very primal. Your subconscious mind will take fearful, scary, or bad events in your life and store them away permanently. Next, it will create a belief based upon those events. For example, if your father told you that you were no good when you were 8 years old, and then a teacher told you the same thing when you were 10, then your subconscious mind would develop the belief that you were not good enough. Furthermore, if you tried to convince yourself that you are worthy and good enough, your subconscious mind will dutifully bring up events from the past to prove you wrong. It has a perfect memory and stores everything. The point is that the only things standing in the way between who you are now and your true alpha male self are those negative beliefs. Once those are cleared, then your true alpha male self can flourish. One of the misconceptions about being an alpha male is that he has to succeed at everything. That is not true. You don't have to be the best at everything. For example, if you are really bad at math and have absolutely no desire to learn it, and don't beat yourself up for being bad at it. Hire an accountant and let them do the math for you. In other words, just because you are learning to become a true alpha male, it doesn't mean that you have to conquer everything in life. Focus on what you love to do in life and not on what you don't like to do or are not good at. It's okay. We all have different talents. In reality, who you really are is who you are right now, but without all of the negative beliefs about yourself. Hence, you need a way to remove the negative beliefs that you have about yourself. When it comes down to it, becoming an alpha male is not as difficult as it may seem. Basically, you have been programmed to have negative thoughts which turn into negative beliefs. So what you need to do is reprogram your subconscious mind with the positive thoughts, feelings, and beliefs of being a true alpha male. The other point about being an alpha male is that scope really doesn't matter. For example, if you are a single dad, then you are the alpha male to your children. Being a great dad as an alpha male is extremely important to them and to society as a whole. There is no role as an alpha male that is not important. So whether you are the owner of a major corporation or a single dad, you are needed. Size and scope don't matter. The notion that you have to be the best in every group would set you up for failure. It's impossible. If you are the most powerful alpha male in every group or social setting, then there would only be one, and you would be president of the United States or China. The point is that it is really good to always strive to be the best alpha male you can be, but have realistic expectations. You don't need to be the top dog everywhere you go. The only point you need to know is that scope doesn't matter. Do your best to be the top dog if you want to, in every social situation, but let it go if you can't be. Being your true alpha male self, no matter what situation you find yourself in, and no matter who comes before you. Don't become a beta male in one situation and an alpha in another. Be your true self always. The actionable steps that are going to get you there have to do with improving who you are, not what you do. But we will include what to do in some situations so that you get an idea of what is normal for the new alpha male. One of the things that you must start to do is to visualize yourself as being a true alpha male. You have to feel it. You have to believe it. Understanding the law of attraction is one of the best ways to start to become a true alpha male. Between the acting of a dreadful thing and the first motion, all the interim is like a phantasma or a hideous dream. Between the moment when you are waiting to do something you don't want to do and the first motion, the whole time you are waiting to take that action is like a phantasma or a hideous dream, an evil specter, an apparition, a nightmare. The battle, the struggle, the hesitation takes place in that moment. The moment when we must step into the unknown. Treat yourself like you're responsible for helping someone, and that doesn't mean being good to yourself, being nice to yourself, or giving yourself an easy life. If you care for someone, you present them with an optimal challenge. First of all, assume that you're worth taking care of, and that it's your responsibility to do so, even if you don't like yourself very much, and lots of people don't, and they have their reasons. Abandon all that sins. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Remember what makes you different from the weak. The difference between the weak and the strong is that when the strong have nothing left, they fight, they fight, they fight. The weak quit, give up, give in. There's nothing weak about you, so I need you to fight your way through it. You and I both know that God's gift to us is our potential, and our gift back to Him is what we do with that potential. Perhaps the greatest insult we can ever give to our Creator is to be a slacker, to have gifts and opportunities and potential and do nothing with them. I suggest today that you believe in yourself as much as God believes in you. He created you for greatness. Now that's how He created you. You determine how great you become. He has already given you the potential and the opportunity. Your response is either to seize the moment and the day and become all that you possibly can be, or to slacken the moment and let things come to you. I encourage you to take the potential you have been given as a gift and show thanks for that gift by giving your life your very best. The decisions you make actually matter. When the alarm goes off in the morning, you get up or hit the snooze and sleep more. When it's time to work out, you get it done or make excuses to skip it. When you're supposed to do the work you know you need to do. Do you do it or let it slide and regret it later? Every decision you make every single day matters. The easy choice makes life hard. A hard choice makes life easy. It's not going to be easy, and you have to be patient and put in the time. You talk to me about working hard for 3 months and not being recognized. That ain't nothing. It takes real commitment, and that every single day. It takes the conscious effort to be more valuable, to be better than the next person, every single day. That is not easy. When you are at 1% and you keep pushing beyond half, you start to realize how much mental strength comes into play, how success in anything comes into your ability to expend effort when energy just isn't there. You have to make the right choices, manifest the right ideas, and lift them up. Don't tear them down. You are responsible for whatever comes out of your life at this moment. Yes, there will be many obstacles in your way. You have to learn to bob and weave, stick and move with a purpose. If you want things to get better, you have to get better. If you want things to change, you have to change, but you have to do it deliberately and consciously. You've got to constantly find a way to feed your mind with strategy. Knowledge is not power. Execution trumps knowledge every day of the week. Turn your shoulds into musts, because everybody has a list of shoulds, don't they? You want to create results, and those results come when you raise your standards. You've got to turn the shoulds into musts. Discomfort is your friend, because discomfort may move you to actually go for the life you deserve. Professionals don't need recognition for their work. Stop walking around thinking you deserve a pat on the back. Whatever it is you've been called to do, it has to become ingrained into the fibers of your being, to the point that you couldn't possibly do anything else. And when it becomes who you are, you don't care about recognition. If someone tells you good job, you say, what are you talking of? This is just what I do. I will serve with honor. Honor is the adherence to what is right. I will serve with honor on and off the battlefield of life, meaning at work and at home. I will do what is right. I have honor whether I'm at home here. The ability to control my emotions and actions, regardless of circumstances, sets me apart. Uncompromising integrity is my standard. Integrity is having honor when no one is looking. Here is one powerful way to change and grow. Cultivate your self-reliance. Take responsibility for your own life, for whatever happens to you. Know that you have consciously made the decisions affecting you, and that what is happening now is the direct result of what you did yesterday. Being self-reliant doesn't mean you can't work with or trust others. In fact, it can make you a more valuable teammate, partner, friend, and friends. Self-reliance means counting on yourself, trusting yourself, being responsible to yourself, and trusting your own instincts and conclusions developed from your study of experiences and philosophy. Take the credit due to you, learn from your mistakes, and pass that value on to others. Psychologists give an example of being self-reliant. They say you're responsible for getting caught in the rain. By deciding not to carry an umbrella every day, you make the choice to endure occasional drenching. Translation: by not being prepared, you choose to face some of life's unpleasant circumstances. Rain, failures, economic losses, relationship losses, professional losses, or personal losses. By being prepared, you increase your chances of success and seize opportunities when they come your way. Some people tend to blame others for their mistakes and failures. They'll say, it's not my fault. The report isn't done because so-and-so didn't do their part. Of course, it's your fault too. It's your responsibility to ensure everyone you delegated work to does their part. You can't control what others do, but it's in your own enlightened self-interest to stay on top of things, especially if they affect your future. Do you think your boss cares that John didn't do his part? He sees only the bottom line. The report isn't done. Be responsible for the things that affect you. Ensure you're more responsible by checking in with your team. If John consistently doesn't handle his part, replace him. If he isn't doing his share, find someone who will, or it will negatively affect you. You can't wake up the morning the project is due hoping John has done his part. You have to be responsible because it affects your career too. My approach for a better future early in my career was to go through the day with my fingers crossed. I used to say, I sure hope things will change for the better. Then I realized things won't change unless I do. It's the same for you. You can't put it on someone else or hope someone else will change it for you. You need to take responsibility. You can't change the circumstances or the seasons or the wind, but you can change your reading habits, whether you go for skills, burn the midnight oil, turn yourself around, and multiply your value by 2, 3, 5, or 10. You have control over that. You don't have control over the constellations, but you do have control over whether you go to school, take adult classes, and learn new skills. If you don't, that's your fault. You've got to take personal responsibility and be self-reliant. How do you know when you're successful? Do you have to be a millionaire? No. All we ask is that you earn all you possibly can. If you earn $10,000 a year and that's the best you can do, that's enough. God and everything else will see to it that you're okay. The key is to do the best you can. If it's $10,000 a year, wonderful. If it's $100,000 a year, wonderful. If it's $1 million a year, wonderful. It doesn't matter whether you earn $110,000 a year or $1 million a year, as long as you've done the best you can. The essence of life is growth. It is doing the best you possibly can. Here's what's interesting. Humans are the only life form that will do less than they possibly can. Humans are the only life form that will settle for less. All other life forms, except human beings, strive to their maximum capacity. How tall will a tree grow? As tall as it possibly can. You've never heard of a tree growing halfway. Trees send their roots down as deep as possible, stretch their limbs up as high as possible, and produce every leaf and fruit possible. Similarly, you have never heard of a human growing halfway physically. We keep growing until we're done. It's genetically coded. That's a part of life we can't control. It's the growth of our minds that we can control, but we tend to neglect this. All life forms inherently strive toward their maximum potential, except human beings. Why wouldn't we strive to become all we can be, to fulfill our potential? Because we have been given the dignity of choice, which makes us different from alligators, trees, and birds. The dignity of choice makes us different from all other life forms. And here's the choice: to become part of what we could be, get by, or to become all that we can be. My best advice is to choose the all. Earn all you can, make all the friends you can, read as many books as you can, develop as many skills as you can, see and do as much as possible, make as much fortune as possible, and give as much of it away as possible. Strive for the maximum. Most people go so far in life, then they pause. They stop dead in their tracks. Why? Because they take some hits. When you have a goal and dream, think it's not strange that you face the fiery furnaces of this world. You will have tribulations. Things are going to happen to you. Life tries to convince us that we're average. There's nothing special about us. We have too many obstacles. We'll never accomplish our dreams. We've made too many mistakes. We'll never leave our mark. We don't realize who we are. Maybe you have doubt in your life. Maybe you don't know for sure what's going to happen in the future, and it scares you. Maybe you're worried about what people think of you, what people say about you. Just that fear paralyzes you. And I just want to ask you today, do you think you have hope? Somebody said that life is like an onion. You have to peel it one layer at a time, and sometimes you cry. Life's going to happen to you. When you have a dream, you're going to get slapped around, and don't take it personally. Don't ask, why did this have to happen to me? Why not you? Who would you suggest? You want to give us some names, some email addresses, and don't tell everybody. 80% don't care, and 20% are glad it's you. I want to ask you, what are you going to believe? Are you going to believe in yourself? Are you going to believe everybody else's judgment on you? Are you going to believe people when they say that you are a failure? No one really likes you. No one really cares about you. It's called life. Suck it up and move on. Get over it. Then turn it on itself and ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Don't be afraid of that. I've got to be more afraid of what I'm going to miss out on, missing out on my mission, missing out on who I am supposed to be. In other words, if you're not going to get rid of fear, then use fear. Use fear or it uses you. It's that simple. You are not like everybody else. You can walk outside and find pigeons, but if you're looking for eagles, it's going to take you a minute. You are different. It's lonely at the top. How many of you know it's lonely at the top? It's lonely at the top. But you eat better. And it's not the end until you've given up. Just the fact that you're here should persuade you that you have another chance to get back up. There's still hope. I'm not here today to tell you that I understand your pain. I don't know how it feels to be abused. I don't know how it feels to feel fat and have an eating disorder. I don't know how it feels to have a broken home. I don't know how it feels. But I know how it feels to have a broken heart, and I know how it feels to be alone. I want you to know that I found my strength in Jesus Christ, and you're going to find your strength in whatever you find it in. I just want you to know that it's not the end. It matters how you're going to finish. Are you going to finish strong? You will find that strength to get back up. Your present or past results have absolutely nothing to do with what's going to happen from this point forward. Now that was the point that Rice Stanford drilled into my head. You see, I kept thinking, well, gee, I'm such a mess up. You know, I've done everything wrong up till now. I'm 26, I'm broke and not happy. Everything was wrong. I said, Bob, that's all in the past. He said, every moment is a new moment. We shouldn't condemn ourselves. And he said, what you were yesterday, you paid for. What you are today, you decide. That's exactly what your word's saying. This power in no way is limited by precedent. Even in a creative state, we sometimes don't understand that. You know why airplanes right up to today almost have wings on them? Because birds have wings. Birds fly. They have wings. You're going to get a plane to fly. You've got to put wings on it. You? No. We've got planes flying without wings today. You know why? Never did need wings. But you see, the thinking was to a degree limited by precedent. Birds fly with wings. Planes have to have wings. Planes do not have to have wings. You're creative. If you can visualize it, you can do it. It doesn't matter what it is. That's what Hill said. Anything the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. There is no more effective way of operating in the world than to conceptualize the highest good that you can and then strive to attain it. There is no more practical pathway to the kind of success that you could have if you actually knew what success was. The world shifts itself around your aim because you're a creature that has an aim. You have to have an aim in order to do something. You're an aiming creature. You look at a point and you move towards it. It's built right into you, and so you have an aim. Well, let's say your aim is the highest possible aim. Well then, so that sets up the world around you. It organizes all of your perceptions. It organizes what you see and don't see it. It organizes your emotions and your motivation. So you organize yourself around that aim. And then what happens is the day manifests itself as a set of challenges and problems. And if you solve them properly, then you stay on the pathway towards that aim. And you can concentrate on the day. And so that way you get to have your cake and eat it too, because you can point into the distance, the far distance, and you can live in the day. And it seems to me that that makes every moment of the day supercharged with meaning. Because if everything that you are doing every day is related to the highest possible aim that you can conceptualize, well, that's the very definition of the meaning that would sustain you in your life. I believe that those rules can be applied to almost anyone and everyone. If you want to excel in whatever you do, those rules are for you. It's that simple. So, my first rule is find your vision and follow it. You see, I think it's the most important thing that we have a very clear vision of where we go, a goal. Where do we go? Because you can have the best ship in the world. You can have the best cruise liner. But if the captain does not know where to go, that ship would drift around the world and out there in the sea and will never end up anywhere. And this is exactly the way it is in real life. If you don't have a goal, if you don't have a vision, you just drift around. You're not going to be happy. The simple truth is, if you don't have a vision, if you don't have a goal, if you don't see your future laid out in front of you, you're just floating around without a purpose. And I think that the numbers speak for themselves. This is why so many people around the world are unhappy with their jobs. I mean, in America, 74% of the people hate their job and would like to change jobs. So think about that. That means that only a quarter of the Americans love their life's work. I mean, that is a very depressing statistic. I always smiled when I worked. No matter how hard I worked, I always had a great time. No matter what I did, it didn't matter if it was in bodybuilding, or if it was in the movies, or if it was as governor. I remember in the pumping iron days, people asked me in the gym all the time, "Why are you smiling all the time? Why are you so happy? You have to lift 50 tons of weight. You have to train 5 hours a day." I mean, I look at the other bodybuilders' faces and lifters' faces, and they look kind of depressing. They look sour. They're miserable that they have to lift weights. You don't look miserable. You look happy. And I tell them always, I say, I smile because I know exactly that every rep that I do, that every set that I do, every weight that I lift, I get one step closer to turning that vision of mine into reality and becoming Mr. Universe. I could not wait to lift another 500 pounds in the squats. I could not wait to do another 1,000 sit-ups. I could not wait to do more bench press and more curls until I couldn't move my arms anymore, because I knew that every rep got me closer to standing on that stage as a champion. As a matter of fact, when I lifted weights, I didn't really feel like I was lifting weights. I felt like I was lifting a trophy over my head each time I lifted, and to have all those bodybuilders around me and thousands of people screaming. And I tell you, this vision didn't just help me in bodybuilding. It helped me with everything. Like I said, focus is the most important quality for success. If you can focus, you can do anything. If you can't focus, you must always work for someone else who will make you focus. Now, wonderfully enough, focusing is like learning how to ride a bicycle or type with a keyboard. It's a learnable skill. You can learn to focus by practicing focus until it becomes automatic. One of the most valuable exercises you can engage in when setting goals is to ask yourself, what is my limiting step? What is the one factor that determines the speed at which I achieve my goal, or whether I achieve it at all? Throughout my personal development, your ability to identify your limiting step is one of the best demonstrations of your intelligence, and a step toward building self-confidence, and a step toward building self-confidence, and a step toward building self-confidence. Your capacity to eliminate this limiting step is one of the best demonstrations of your overall competence in achieving anything you want. In studying everything that has been written or said about personal development and success, the conclusion I came to was that your level of self-confidence is probably the critical factor in everything you accomplish. When you have enough self-confidence, you will try almost anything. Because success is largely a matter of averages or probabilities, the more things you try, more likely it is that you will achieve greatly. The same is true for you. By setting goals, trying more things, engaging in more activities, and exploring more opportunities, your probabilities of success increase dramatically. The only real limiting step that you might have is your level of self-confidence. When you reach the point at which you believe in yourself absolutely, the barriers that exist in your external world will not stop you. If you want to be a better leader, understand and then practice these three as number 1, inspiration. The job of a leader really is to inspire other people. If you look at Steve Jobs, you look at Elon Musk, you look at Nelson Mandela, you look at Sergey Brin of Google, you look at a Rembrandt or Picasso. These people were incredibly inspired. They were not only incredibly inspired, they were inspirational to other people. I mean, there's that incredible story of Steve Jobs. A lot of people say Steve Jobs wasn't a nice person. And yet, if you were to poll the former employees of Apple, they would say, my years at Apple working with Steve Jobs were the single best years of my entire career. And you say, oh, well, no. Why? And they say, because he was inspirational. I mean, when Steve Jobs was a young man or a young kid, his father said, go out and paint the fence outside of their house. And Steve Jobs said, no problem. He went out and he started painting the outside of the fence. A few hours later, his father comes out and says, Steve, did you paint the fence? Steve says, I did. Dad, Steve Jobs' father inspects the fence. And he says, Steve, you did a great job painting the outside of the fence, but you didn't paint the inside of the fence. And Steve Jobs looked up at his father and said, "But Dad, no one's going to see the inside of the factory." And his father looked at him and said, "But son, we will." Now, it's many decades later, and Steve Jobs is running Apple, and they're ready to launch, or ready to develop, rather, the first Apple Macintosh. And he looked at his design team and he said, "Here's your deliverable. I want the outside of the computer to look so simple and so elegant, like a piece of art. But here's the real mission. Make the inside so beautiful that it'll bring tears to our eyes." And his design team looked at him and said, "But Steve, no one's going to see the inside of the Apple Macintosh." And Steve Jobs looked at his team and said, "But we will." Why? That's inspiration. Let's take a few minutes to talk about the importance of knowing yourself enough to be your best leader. You know, when you thought you were doing what you were supposed to do and were misinformed. The times you thought you had it all laid out and it just didn't work. The times when you burned the midnight oil day after day and it didn't seem to help. It didn't seem to change the end result. I'd like to ask you to take a look at any place you've had a limitation. Ask yourself, when did I decide to accept that limitation? The bottom line is no one's coming. No one's coming to push you. No one's coming to tell you to turn the TV off. No one's coming to tell you to get out the door and exercise. Nobody's coming to tell you to apply for that job that you've always dreamt up beside. Nobody's coming to write the business plan for you. It's up to you. And because you're only ever going to do the things that you feel like doing right now, or that feel good right now. Unless you understand that you've got to parent yourself, you've got to push yourself. These are the times that you have to rely on your own self-encouragement. Take responsibility for the missed opportunity or the misrepresentation. Learn from the fact that even though your client wanted it one way and you presented it the right way, it didn't work. Be prepared for the letdowns that happen every so often. Know that this lost opportunity just set you up better for the next one. Realize that you can make the necessary alterations next time. Make the changes that will make the difference. Study your mistakes and learn from them. Don't dwell on the mistakes. Acknowledge them, learn from them, and encourage yourself that you're smarter than your bank account leads you to believe. It all comes down to the inner game, my friends. Changing your life is a change in the inner game. The outside world you can't control, but you have absolute control over this lot. If you learn the dynamics of what shapes you, and identity is one of those simple, clear, fundamental basics, then if you start to shift it, everything else will shift in your life as well. Some people, by the way, have to have more than enough money to do what they want, when they want, where they want, with whomever they want, contribute the way they want. That's their must. They find a way. I know that sounds overly simplistic, but it's true. Remind yourself that you're bound to get better. Don't get down yourself. Don't beat yourself up. It's the next opportunity that matters, not the last one. The last one matters only in that you must learn from your mistakes. But the next one gives you the opportunity to show that you have learned from your mistakes. You can do it better next time. You just have to practice. Practice, keep trying. Keep trying until what? Till you've got it down. If you figured out what went wrong last time, then you know how to make it right next. If you figured out what it was in your presentation that didn't work, don't say that next time. If you figured out that the reason you didn't close the deal this time was because you didn't have all the facts and figures in place, have all the facts and figures in place next time. Don't beat yourself up for messing up. Pat yourself on the back for figuring it out. You need to encourage yourself. You need to pump yourself up. You need to be your own cheerleader. Why? Because you can't wait and hope that someone else will come along and cheer you up, make you feel better, or tell you that you'll do better next time. You have to rely on yourself. Everybody wants to succeed so fast because they want to prove something to somebody else. When you want to give up, just keep going. When your luck is done, just keep going. Don't stop, just keep going. Let's suppose that there's a vast, hugely powerful force that nobody can withstand. This immense force is always active, in furious motion. It never rests. It's like a slowly flowing river, and eventually carve the Grand Canyon out of solid rock. But that comparison doesn't really do it justice. The force I'm talking about is much more formidable than any river, ocean, glacier, or any other natural phenomenon. Now, in trying to achieve your life's goals, would you prefer to fight against this great force? Would you want to struggle against this mighty power that has all the odds overwhelmingly in its favor? Or would you rather enlist this great power in your cause and make the inevitable work for you instead of against you? Take your time before answering. Think it over answering. Think it over. By the way, time is that great power I'm talking about. Time is the mightiest force in the world, or even in the universe. Of course, the answer to the question I posed is very obvious. Why would you ever choose to fight time when you could have time on your side? Who wouldn't want to harness the great river of time that flows through all of life? Why wouldn't you want to use the power of time? To generate power of time, to generate power in every area of your existence, to turn the turbines of your hopes and dreams, to charge your every aspiration with lightning bolts of electricity, with lightning bolts of electricity. Well, there's only one way to make time work for you, not against you, and that's with patience. It's kind of the way I think about getting into shape. You've heard for 20 years that it's exercising and eating right. You just wish it was a pill. It won't be instantaneous. I know we want that, but it's not. Greatness takes time. The impulsive stuff will last when you build something with a foundation of choices and character. You see, character is everything in life. Your attitudes will really determine your altitude. Bouncing back, number one, is refusing to listen to the negative chatter in my own head. Creating something from absolutely nothing. I didn't ask permission, I gave notice. At some point, I had to stop asking. Can I be great? Can I be brilliant? Can I be okay and still be accepted? I just stopped asking permission and gave notice unapologetically. Not in a braggadocious way, not in a way that shrunk anyone else, but in a way that said, I've only got one life, and I'm going to ride this one till the wheels fall off. And I'm telling you that I think you need to embrace desperation again in your life. Do you want it so bad that you're desperate for it? Let me see. In a fight, you show me two people. This is why it's so hard to repeat as a champion in the fighting game. You show me someone who's up and coming, who's hungry for that title, who's never had it before, who can taste it, who knows if they win that belt, their whole life's going to change. They're going to be champion of the world. All the endorsements, all the money, all their family life, all their parents' lives are going to change. You show me somebody chasing that, hungry for it, against someone who's just trying to hold on to a title. That's why most of the time, the challenger beats the champ. It's hard to repeat as a champion because the hunger goes down just a little bit. The greatest athletes, Bobes, the Bradys, the Jordans of sports, have a way of feeding their hunger all the time and increasing it. What separates them isn't just their work ethic, it isn't just their talent, although those things matter. It isn't just that they practice more. What separates them is they're just hungrier. They somehow find a way, as they climb up the ranks and win championships, to get even hungrier for more. Where 99% of the athletes lose just a little bit of their edge once they get that first championship, that first pro contract, first big amount of money, first world championship, they just lose their hunger a little bit. And then there's the elite. They get hungrier. It feeds the beasts. What does it mean for you to advance economically if you lose your soul? What does it mean for you to end up running the business if you lose your soul? What does it mean to have a bigger house if you lose your soul? I want you to value it, not just what you're going to get, not just what you're going to get. So many people think leadership's title or position, and you may be a leader that has a title or position. But many people who have great influence really don't have that. If you had spent 1 hour a day, every day on one subject for 5 years, you could become an expert on that subject. And I stopped asking the question, how long will it take? And I started asking the question, how far can I go? And everything changed that day. I realized that you can set goals and have 5-year goals, whatever. But I changed from a goal mindset to a growth mindset. And the fact that if I would be intentional in the areas of growth that would have the return and would fit who I was, then I could really be successful and help a lot of people. Everybody wants to come up with excuses on this. I wasn't born that way. I'm stuck. I wasn't born here. This can't be lost in life when you're this young. I'm a female. I'm an immigrant. I'm a minority. I'm transgender. Excuses are reality. The problem is nobody cares. Your lack of patience is killing you. So many of us choose our path out of fear, disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect. So we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying, on the proof that you can ask the universe for it. Effort makes the difference. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Yonino, on fatia, being sinful day. Oh Lord, all on the human or us. And I told you before the thing I love about effort. There are other things. Skills, right. You may have to go get a degree for that. There are some skills you gotta go get a degree. It could take you 4 years, 8 years, 12 years. I heard Ed Milet once say you're one decision away from a totally different life. And I agree with him. But I want to ask you this. What is that one decision? And the answer is to take complete and total responsibility for everything in your life. You asked for my hustle. I gave you my heart because it came with so much more. It's the ultimate sacrifice. Greatness has a cost. It reschedules your plans for you. It puts your family and friends on hold. It makes you feel misunderstood and will put you in some deep, dark holes. Greatness demands everything from you. Your minds, your body, your spirit, and your soul. So what do you do when you shoot 4 air balls in a playoff game? What do you do? Do you weep? Are you disappointed? Do you let down all of your teammates and fans? Do you ask for sympathy? Do you ask, why me? When they blast the coach for keeping you in the game? Do you blame yourself when they've drawn their own conclusions about how your career is going to end? Do you wish you could go back in time and make a different decision? Would you get off the plane and go straight to Palisades and hide? Get the janitor to open up the gym and lock yourself in there until the sun comes up? You'd go shoot, you'd drill, and you'd relive that moment and change the outcome over and over and over.